But let's move on to another issue, and one that we have highlighted here on the platform. And not the issue of, though we're going to get into that later with Jane Kelsey, of tikanga Māori compulsory training for law students. The issue, and I've just recommended to you an excellent article that Gary Judd KC gave to us, which we've published on the platform. I thank him for that. The issue of a Court of Appeal hearing overturning a High Court hearing which ruled that the Minister for Children, Karen Chua, should not be compelled by subpoena to appear before the Waitangi Tribunal as it hears claims that it's a breach of the treaty for the government to change its policies in Oranga Tamariki, and we don't need to go into the details of those policy changes. And the piece that Gary sent to me, I read, and I'll be honest, I'm not a lawyer, but it hit the buttons for me. And to explain it more and explain where we're at with the Treaty of Waitangi, I wanted to invite Gary back on the program, and he joins us now. Gary, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Yes,
Boy,
good morning, Sean.
You're turning into the legal conscience of this country. Is this intentional?
No, it's something which has just happened, somewhat to my surprise, and perhaps thankful. I should offer thanks to Kylie Quince, because her statement about me sort of has propelled the issues into the limelight, perhaps more than anything else could do.
Yeah. Has there been a perceptive change in, if you like, your perceived persona? Are people reaching out to you? Are the media interested in what you had to say more than they have been previously?
Yes, that is the case. As you know, because I think I've heard you mention it, the Herald
followed the story
and a piece talking about it. And I had a discussion with Mike Hosking. So I think
you've gone mainstream. There you go. You've gone legacy, Gary.
Yeah, well, yes, but no, it's not something that I actually anticipated. But I'm really very pleased that people are talking about these issues, because I think they are incredibly important for New Zealand's future.
And it is the debate that we have been avoiding, almost willfully having, for maybe 20, 30 years in this country, isn't it, Gary?
Well, I don't know whether we've consciously been avoiding it. I think what's really happened, I think this is certainly true of me, that things have been happening which have been in the background, and because I've been very busy in my professional career, I hadn't been taking much notice of. But then, over recent years, when it seems with the attitude of the last government, people have become emboldened to actually come out of the closet, as it were. It's become more clearly evident what's going on. And I think and I became evidence. I can't actually, began to notice these things. I can't remember exactly whether it was the Three Waters issue when National Business Review had a piece by one of their editors, Tim Hunter, which talked about the democratic deficit in the Three Waters legislation, and that got my interest, and I then did a bit of investigation and found out exactly what was happening, or what the government was trying to do with Three Waters, and I thought that it needed to be exposed, and so I wrote an article talking about the results of that research, which the NBR published, and really it's sort of gone on from there when with other issues surfacing, like the last government's actions in relation to health, and in all sorts of different areas.
Gary, let's get specific now about the Waitangi Tribunal. It's an excellent, and can I just say I like the way you wrote it in a way that a layperson like me could understand your article. But, Gary, essentially what you're saying is the Waitangi Tribunal was set up to hear claims of breaches of the Treaty of Waitangi. And it was set up by the government as a permanent commission of inquiry. And it is, therefore, a branch of the executive branch of government, right? That's essentially what it is. It's a creation or a creature of the executive. Yeah. And therefore, it's not its job to argue with other executive branches of government. It's to hear the claims of iwi groups and present recommendations or observations on those claims to the executive, to the government, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. What happened really is I read Justice Isaac's decision in which he said that the summons to the Minister of Children was invalid. But he did so on the basis of comity. Yeah. And I thought that can't be right because the Waitangi Tribunal is not a court. The doctrine of comity operates between the three branches of government.
The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary.
Yes, that's right. And the doctrine says that each branch must treat the other with respect. And I thought to myself, well, the Waitangi Tribunal is not part of the judiciary because it doesn't make decisions. And a hallmark of a judicial institution is that it makes decisions. It decides on disputes between individual citizens and between citizens.
It doesn't. It can only recommend to the government.
Yeah, that's right. The tribunal can only make recommendations. So I thought, well, if Justice Isaac is wrong, and I might say it was the Crown that made the submission to him, he was only adopting the Crown's submission. If he's wrong, just exactly where does the tribunal sit in the governmental scheme of things? So I did what lawyers usually do in those circumstances. I went and had a look at the legislation which established the tribunal, and that's the 1975 Treaty of Waitangi Act. And when I look, I'm pretty quite familiar with it now, actually, but it always pays to go back and have another look when you've got a new problem. And when I looked at it, it became clear that that there is absolutely no doubt that the functions of the tribunal are to make recommendations. And not only that, the functions are to make recommendations to the Crown. And when they have made their inquiry and they have decided what their recommendations are going to be, they must then report their recommendations